Okay, as you may have noticed, if you watched the previous video, that is, there's these Bushmills bottles sitting here on the counter, the unfinished counter, I should say. Beg pardon, you're probably wondering, why is there carpet on the counter? Well, it's basically just to protect the unfinished board, wood, whatever you want to call it, because the countertop hasn't been installed yet. So that's why, if you're wondering. But anyway, there has been 3 bottles of Bushmills sitting on the counter during the other video, and that's going to make this a double bill. So that could have been the opening act, if you want to call it that. But I've been wanting to talk about Bushmills for a little while on this channel, I guess you could call it a whiskey channel. I don't know. I don't really know what type of channel it is. Whatever it is. I've been wanting to talk about Bushmills because I really like Bushmills. I find Bushmills to be a great distiller. Also oldest distillery in the world, 1608. And also I think one of the better, if not maybe the best Irish distillers, at least personally for me. So I know a lot of people think that to get a really good Scotch from or out of the UK, it's got to be a Scotch, or I should say, pardon me, I should say to get a really good whiskey out of the UK, it should be a Scotch. But over the last couple of years, Scotch has kept going up, up, and up. And Irish is still, it's gone up a little bit, but it hasn't gone to crazy highs like Scotch has. So sometimes when you just don't want to spend a lot on a bottle, or you want like a weekly, something that you can have on the weekly, that's not like something super fancy, what can you get? Go to Irish, at least I find, because Irish is going to be just as good for a little bit of less of the price, and like it's nothing to stick your nose up at. So over the last couple of years, I've kind of looked at Bushmills in general. I know a lot of people like Redbreast. I personally think Redbreast is a little bit overrated for what it is. I can get into that in a different video one day. But I really like Bushmills because great price point, really good product, lots of different things to choose from. So my personal favorite, I think the first one I ever had was actually the 10, which wasn't in this bottle. This is a brand new bottle. The 10 used to be basically in this bottle, as probably most of you know. So they had the original, the white, and then the black bush, and then they had the 10, the 16, and the 21. And then a couple years ago they brought out the red bush, which the red bush is matured to perfection in bourbon casks. So when I saw this, I was like, that's really interesting. I tended to like whiskeys that were finished in bourbon casks. I found it really balanced it out well. It wasn't kind of like just something in an oak that's only an oak, where it's very oaky, or like the 16-year Bushmills, for instance, which is, at least to me, I always found that to be a really big sherry bomb of a whiskey. Still really good, but just really heavy on the sherry for my liking. And also, I really need to invest in like one of those monitors that shows me what is getting recorded. Anyway, so as you had just seen before that, a little bit of an embarrassment. 16, I was saying, was a sherry bomb. The 21 after that, I find the 21 also, it's good, but I found that the 21 is also a little bit too much flavor of raisins, at least for me. Like it was my cousin really liked it, and he owned a bottle of it. Yeah, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it was one of his favorite Bushmills. Again, for me, it was good. I wouldn't personally buy it. It was a little bit too much raisins and dried fruit for me. But when it comes down to these guys, and some of the other ones that I have here behind me, that I'll get into in a second, I really do think that the Red Bush is by far, especially among the cheaper Bushmills, such as the red and the white, I definitely think that the red is the best bang for your buck. So Bushmills, again, like I mentioned, I can't believe that that last video failed because of the card. Always use a fresh card. Always use a fresh card. Anyway, the white, the original Irish triple distilled signature Irish whiskeys. I believe when Bushmills does a lot of their advertisements for Bushmills. They use the white, and it's usually shown being mixed with stuff. Now this is definitely good enough where you don't need to mix it with anything. Not even ice. I myself, I never use ice or put ice in whiskey. I almost always drink it straight. The only time I would ever mix is if I'm using, or for whatever reason, it's like a cheap whiskey. Like if we're talking about Canadian Club, which is just dirty ditch water, basically next compared to this, then yeah, put ice in it or mix it with ginger ale or 7-Up or Coke or whatever, because Canadian Club, I mean, unless you're talking about the Chronicle editions, like the 40, 41, 42, those are unbelievable. If you can find those, and I don't know if they're still releasing one for 2022, which I think the last one they did was 44 years. So if they're releasing one for 40, that would be 45 years old. The 44-year-old one was the oldest ever aged Canadian whiskey ever developed. Those Chronicle editions are unbelievable. That was some of the best whiskey I've ever had, which blew my mind that it came from Canadian Club, because usually Canadian Club is garbage, at least in my mind. If you can find the Chronicles, definitely get one, because they're outstanding. But like if you're drinking Canadian Club, just skip it and go buy at least Crown Royal or Crown Royal Northern Harvest. But basically what I'm trying to get at is this Bushmills, even though it's cheap and it's the cheapest one that they make, is still good enough you can drink it straight, because it's still fantastic. The Black Bush is a triple distilled sherry cask reserve. So it, again, kind of like the 16, is going to be heavily on the sherry. I don't find it's as much of a sherry bomb as the 16, but it's still a fantastic whiskey. The other thing I should mention about the original, the 16, or original 16, I'm thinking Canadian beers. The original Irish Bushmills, the white one, just a really good cheap bottle. Like I remember even like last year I bought it for a golf tournament that me and the boys were at, a little half bottle, and we were just drinking it straight. Again, you don't need to mix it with ice. You can if you want, or maybe just a little bit of water. But then if you really do like a mixed drink, like you're not throwing money down the tube by using this. But it's still good enough that if you have friends come over that like something straight, give them this. This will be just as good as like a really nice Scotch or some Johnny Walker that people say is really nice, but is really just more like on the lower rungs of Scotches. And I'll get into Johnny Walker in a whole other video, because I find that a really interesting subject to talk about, especially when we're talking about Johnny Walker Blue Label. I'm not going to get into it right now, but a teaser for you, Johnny Walker Blue is not the best Johnny Walker. It's all hype and marketing. If you actually do tastings, it's not the best. I won't tell you which one is the best. It's also not green. You can probably figure it out from me saying not green, because I know a lot of people love the green. Anyway, again, I digress. Sorry, going on a Kyle tangent here. But yeah, Red Bush, very, very good. When it comes down to these guys and the 10, very, very good. I've given it as gifts before. But you know, sometimes if you just want, like, I think I mentioned it before, if you want like just like a weekly bottle or something that you can put in a nice decanter. I have a really nice decanter. I don't have it set up right now. But if you want something that you don't have to worry about, or you don't want to showcase the label, because you know, sometimes with a decanter, you may want to put something good in there that you can drink a lot or often or share with people, but then if it's in the decanter, you don't get to show off the label of like your really nice whiskeys. That's where the Red Bush again comes in, because it's such a really good whiskey. Easy to drink, smooth, on its own. Just put it in the decanter and you don't have to worry about anything. And you can almost play a game and let people guess what it is. So, let's try some stuff out here. I'll put these back. And again, because I already did all this once, but the card was full and it wasn't recording, I already did pour some and you missed it. So like I was saying, I'll just top these up a little bit. Again, I was saying in the, since this is a new setup, I don't know what's better, pouring here on the carpet, because it's going to be a little bit out of focus because of the depth of field, or if pouring here in front of me is going to be better. I'll look on the playback and decide when I look at it on the big screen. And yes, there is carpet on the bar here because the bar isn't quite finished, and the carpet is there to protect. so that the surface, the substrate, doesn't get damaged by any spills, so that the glue adheres properly. So, again, on the palate, between the 10, you definitely do get the notes of the honey and the vanilla. Definitely the vanilla for sure. Versus on the Red Bush, I just really notice the grain there. So basically, like, I just notice more of that, like, that bourbon smell. Don't really notice as much of the vanilla. I noticed once, probably some of you have watched the Whiskey Tribe. Great videos. One of the videos they had where they had this guy who was a professional tea tester, and where he was testing out some of the whiskeys. I think the video was they were doing cheap whiskeys all the way up to like hundreds of, or no, I think it was like thousands of dollars for a bottle. It was like a super high-end Talisker, I think. So the guy was doing this where he would, because apparently when you're tasting tea, he was saying they swish it around in their mouth to get the full flavor. So he started doing this with the whiskey, to like the horror of some of the people there. So every once in a while, if I'm really trying to pull out like flavors of stuff, I'll try and do that once in a while. I'm not really the best at pulling out flavors. I've said that before, both smelling and on the palate. Like my brother-in-law, far better at that. Like he can pull out stuff on the nose and the palate that like I just can't find. I just can't get. So I know I'm not the best at that. If you're yelling at the screen saying this guy is a joke, then, oh, sorry. But then if you're that much of a purist, then why are you even watching this video anyway? So, yeah, like I said, it's mostly the honey and the vanilla versus just what I said before. I still can't believe I did all this once already and the card was full. I'm such an idiot. So basically, and it's probably for your benefit that I'm doing this a second time, because the last time I did this, I seemed to just run on and on and on about talking about how great the Red Bush is. But basically what comes down to me is that, yes, the 16 still is a great bottle. It's just, for $25, $30 more, I just find there's always a little bit of that aftertaste there. It's not bad, but it's just there. It's just noticeable versus the Red Bush, since it's just bourbon. It doesn't have that mixture of bourbon and sherry. I don't get that aftertaste as much, and so therefore I just like it more. That's again a personal decision. Some people will say the age statement is going to be better no matter what. Maybe they're right. It could be a personal thing. I don't always necessarily think the age statement makes something better. Again, people who are either Johnny Walker fans or any other blended fans will tell you, like, they'll say it's not always about the age. I usually do prefer ages, although I don't always think higher the age the better. Like, I've had the 30-year-old Balvenie and I didn't think it was that good. Like, I think the 18 years or the 21-year Portwood was far better. Like, I think the 21-year-old Portwood Balvenie, just as we're going on this tangent here, is probably my second favorite whiskey of all time ever, other than the Macallan 25. Like the 30-year-old Balvenie, I was like, it was just ho-hum. I was like, oh, whatever. Like, this isn't that big of a deal. So anyway, it's going to be potato for some people, but I definitely think for a little bit less money, you cannot go wrong with this bottle. I've said, I mean, basically Bushmills should make me an ambassador at this point. The amount of people I put onto this bottle and their whole range in general is just, it's crazy. Of like, anytime anyone asks me, like, what's the best cheap whiskey, or what's a good alternative to Scotch, or I want to get into whiskey, what should I do? I'll usually give them a really good, like a good Scotch or something, but I will always point them towards Bushmills, because like, they're the oldest for a reason. They've been around forever, literally since 1608, for a reason. They're that good. You don't need to spend big money always to get high quality. So I think definitely, if you're going to go for just one, I think all you need is the Bushmills Red Bush. Now, you're probably also wondering, why is there this third bottle here? Well, this here is a special edition Bushmills. It's another 10-year age statement, but this is the Causeway collection. And I've only had this once, up and before today. It's a 2021 limited edition release. So I don't know if the Causeway collection, I don't know if they've come up with either other age statements or other flavor profiles. I'll have to Google it and maybe put it up on the screen. But this one is finished in cognac casks, and which is interesting because I definitely noted that difference when I was having it the first time. So I've got actually a Saint Remy glass here. Saint Remy, is that cognac or is that brandy? I think that's cognac. Usually I can remember this. I'm usually really good with this sort of thing. But for whatever reason today, I'm just not sharp. And you're probably like, oh, does this guy not be able to remember this? Well, you know what? Again, if you're that much of a purist, you're not watching this channel anyway. So, sorry if you're getting tired of me ramble, at least take note or enjoy the beautiful background that my brother-in-law built out of the old whiskey barrels. At least pay attention and enjoy that and just tune me out. But I thought the Saint Remy glass would be fitting. But you can definitely note that it's definitely, you can definitely pick up the pear. Yeah, rich fruit with pear, almond, and spice. So you can definitely pick out the pear, just like you would when you're drinking cognac. It's definitely very, very heavy on the fruit. So like I recently had a half bottle of Saint Remy. I could really, really tell that it was really heavy on the fruit, as such things as pears. So definitely more in like the grape than the grain, as they say, even though that's more talking about wine. But anyway, very, very good. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to find this in all markets. It's a great bottle. It's definitely one I'm going to savor because of how limited it is, and I don't believe that it's going to be easily found. So again, to recap, with Bushmills, if you can find this one, grab it. The 10, also great for the price point of 50 some dollars Canadian in most markets. Might be cheaper in Alberta. But yeah, if you're gonna only go with one, or you want just like a weekly bottle that you can put in a decanter or not, the Red Bush. I mean, I definitely don't think you'll be disappointed. So anyway, that's all for me for this time. We'll see you again in the next one. We'll come up with maybe something interesting, maybe a little bit different than just the whiskeys. But yeah, thanks again for watching. We'll see you later.